Hey, I swear to God, this is not clickbait. There's this new way of making content that's only possible thanks to TikTok and the rise of short form video content in general. I've only seen a few brands implementing it, and it's actually changed the way I make content completely. It's time effective, inexpensive, and risk-free. Here's where I think it's the best part. For entrepreneurs and creators who are just getting started, this is actually way more effective and way less intimidating than your GaryVee content pyramid with these pillar content pieces that you actually need to produce to get the ball rolling. We're spending the next 20 minutes together breaking it down with 4 other brand professionals who actually don't know about this strategy yet, and we'll give a couple of examples that you can literally rip off and start implementing with your phone as soon as the video is over. So let's get right into it. Hi.
Hello.
Hi everyone.
We're gonna talk today about what I call the inverted content pyramid framework. I know this is a mouthful, but I want to start with a question. What's your approach to content creation?
My approach now is try to be sustainable doing it, be sustainable and strategic at the same time. For me, the challenge is time and try to find ways to create.
What's your approach? How do you plan it and how do you get started?
Well, we mainly make content for clients. So for us, it's really about coming back to the brand strategy, and we really look at the tone of the brand, who the personas are, who we're speaking to, and we look at where we want to position the brand, and that's essentially forms our content strategy. We want to be able to create content that users or customers can resonate with and connect with.
All right, that's awesome. So we've all seen these. There's one piece of content. He'd be like, oh yeah, make a podcast episode and then record it and repurpose the shit out of it, and then start chopping it into 100 pieces, reels, TikToks, blah, 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 make a carousel, make a tweet, repost the tweet on Instagram, and it's a never ending thing. It's you need to end up the week with 100 pieces of content. I'm like, that's fantastic. It's worked well for a lot of people. It's also a lot of work, but it's also a great way to optimize the content because not everyone's gonna see every single piece of content. And that's also a great way to try to optimize all of that. Now, who here in the group applies this strategy when it comes to making content? Raise your hand. Maria. Okay, talk about it.
One of the ways I use to try to make content creation more sustainable, because in the end I can focus on one piece of content, like an article or an episode of my podcast, and then chop it, as you said, in different pieces. So this is really practical for me.
So you do a couple articles, long pieces, then you take ideas from there, turn it into content, and then you have the podcast. So you have one pillar piece of content, and then that's the GaryVee type of thing, where your pillar maybe is the podcast episode, or your pillar maybe is the article, and you chop it down to all of that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. This is what I call a top-down content strategy, where you have one piece at the top and it's a big fat piece and it took a little while, in your case 2-3 hours, half a day, and then that's the content pyramid, and then you chop it down into a gazillion different pieces. Okay? Top down, because you create a pillar piece of content and you break it down. Now, I've realized that because of TikTok, it's so easy these days to make video that sometimes you could literally just pick up the phone. If you see an interesting article, go on TikTok, use the green screen feature, record it, a couple of takes, maybe 15 minutes. In 20 minutes, you have a video piece out, okay? I don't know if you've experimented, if you've done this before, raise your hand. Okay, cool. This session is going to be great for you because you're going to start doing this, I promise. Just to do that, you find an article you have an idea you're reading, because we all spend time on social media. You find something that is triggers you, oh, let me share my thoughts. So you just record it with a green screen, or you reply to it. On TikTok, you can do that super easy. And then you have a short video that took you 15-20 minutes. You post it, see what happens, okay? Now, because of this way of doing things, I believe that you can actually invert this pyramid. So let's see how it will look like. So instead of now putting a lot of effort, 3-4 hours, half a day, 2 days, in one big piece of content, how about we invest 15 to 30 minutes in 10 pieces of content? So we're investing the same amount of content, but in very low production value, low effort, ideas. This is just tweeting, but with video, okay? It's like a tweet. I actually know a lot of people who use tweets as research. So I'm saying do the same thing with this. Now, when you find something that kind of hits, how about you invest resources and double down on that and create a new piece of content, which is the same idea, but now you're expanding a little bit on it. This is what I call the bottom-up content strategy. And it's only possible because of TikTok. I mean, a lot of people have been doing this with Twitter, like a lot. And I think just it's a very interesting way to test the content. How does this sound?
Sounds great. I think it's a great way to build content. It reminds me of a coach, a business coach that I met. He uses something similar on LinkedIn. He says that he spends less than 30 minutes to write a post on LinkedIn, and that's driving him amazing results. He does that every day. And I think then he probably expands the best performing topics with a podcast episode that he has or video content. But yeah, it's similar to what you explained, but on LinkedIn. And I've heard great things about this strategy.
I love it. And I'm going to actually give you an example. So let's look at this. Look at what I have here. A LinkedIn post. Okay. So this is an example. I do the same thing. A month and a half ago, I posted a LinkedIn piece that worked really well. So I usually get between like 20 likes or like 30, 14, something like that. Okay, that's my average. Now, with this, what I did was post this LinkedIn piece, which was talking about like creative teams and like how advertisement needs to change. And it got really well. It went up to like 200 likes or something like that, which to me is a lot. It's 10 times more of my average. So I'm like, oh, there's something interesting here. At the same time, there was a conference here in Melbourne that I was invited called No-BS. So I was like, let me talk about this because like I want to position myself with that. So what did I do? I took this idea that worked really well, went through all the comments, replied all the comments, got into conversations with some people in the comments, got new ideas, and break it down into a talk. So from a LinkedIn piece, there was, I don't know, maybe like, it took me like 30 minutes to write, impromptu, like just typing ideas. Then I go and turn it into a talk. That's now 30 minutes. Now, after the talk, people love it. And so they come to me and we start talking. Actually, Gayarti, this is how you and I met, right? So this is actually very interesting. So thanks to your feedback, Gayarti, and a lot of other people's feedback, I'm like, wait, this is actually very interesting. People are engaging with it. There's something interesting here. But I kind of knew it would be interesting because it was somehow validated. It was one of the content pieces that worked best for me on LinkedIn. So I was into something. Now, this talk went very well. It's one of my most successful talks that I've given. And I'm like, okay, now what do we do with this? So now that I know that the content is good, I can expand this. And that's what I did when I recorded this into a masterclass last week. So what was a 30-minute talk, I expanded it into a masterclass that now has exercises, has a conversation built on top of it. And it's the same ideas, the same context, but I'm like building it up. Now, why do I think this is interesting? Because instead of trying to like invest a lot of money and putting a lot of like unnecessary stress and resources into one single piece that has to perform because you invested so much time and money into it and energy, now you're like lowering the effort so you feel more free to like explore different things. When one hit, you'll double down on that and you'll build on top of that an extra layer and you continue to get feedback and then you build another one. That's like basically applying design thinking to content creation. It's also applying research to content creation. So I'm now using content and the interactions in my content as my research, as I figure out my business, as I figure out my positioning as a professional. And so this is invaluable to me. And what I think it's really interesting is that now the risk has lowered like crazy. So I am not investing any money or time until I see something is very interesting for people. Okay, and I'll talk about a post that went viral later, that was the same thing, applied the same concept, and I'm like, it's very interesting that this one precisely was the post that went viral, because I had done the same thing, and I'll tell you about it later. But this is the idea, basically. That's why I call it now the bottom up content strategy, because it's doing the opposite of what we've been seeing so far. But it's now possible because TikTok basically lowered the expectations on production value of the content. 5 years ago, that would be impossible because people would have looked at it and be like, oh, what the fuck is this? But now it's like easy, because we can all pick up our phones, or we can do this on Twitter if you're a writing person, or on LinkedIn. And there's so many options where you can try and like spread all your content, stick it to the wall and see what sticks. And then from that, like iterate and build into something bigger. If you're watching this and you have a comment, also leave it here on the comments, and I'll reply to every single comment here. We'll keep the conversation going. So what do you think about this idea of like experimenting with a lot of different video content on TikTok, and then take it from there and build it up to a different thing? Maria, how does it sound? Does it make sense? Could you implement this?
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. For me, it's kind of mind-blowing now, because it implies to change the whole framework. But I think also the other framework is kind of old school now. I think I think for me personally, the challenge is the change of the mindset here, because I'm just trying to think, reframing all this and thinking, okay, how can I apply this on daily basis with the team? How to experiment this, for example, with the social media manager in Otter, for example. But I think it's great, and I think it's really aligned with Lean Startup, for example, which is also how we work. So in the end, it makes a lot of sense for me, more than the other strategy. First of all, I need to open a TikTok account.
That's the first thing.
Something
before someone bans it, open the TikTok account. Maybe then in like a month later it'll be banned, and then you'll have to like go back to Instagram. It's definitely a change of mindset, and it's definitely a change of like approach for especially like those who like us been working in the industry for like 10 years. It's like, now you're telling me that like everything that I've done in my career to kind of like make things perfect, I need to unlearn this. And it's kind of what it is.
For me, the most attractive thing of all of this is that because it's a shorter piece of content, it's less intimidating, you know? So you can just jump on it and do like, just gonna do a 30-second cut out of this, but you know, now that you're doing 30 seconds, why not spending 2 more minutes talking about it, right? So I think it's a great approach for people like me who are not so comfortable creating content for themselves.
And you actually, I have to say, you made one really good piece of content where you were showing the before and after, like a sketch that you had storyboard for like an animation, and then you show the final results. These are the type of things that are very easy to do. You just pick up your phone, record your notebook. So if you're camera shy, don't be intimidated that you need to now also like start recording yourself. Like this might come in the future, and I would encourage you to experiment with that. But if you don't feel comfortable like starting with that yet, well, like you can start recording the things around you instead of like using text, and like maybe use the voiceover feature where like you can talk on it so people start building a relationship with you. And yeah, like LinkedIn or stuff like that. Any channel that just like you can just literally put something out in like 30 minutes. So not use any design tool, not use anything like that, and just like put something, like write a word, like pick up the phone and talk. And then with today, like you have like transcription and auto captions and all of these tools that will make the content easy, like more engaging. So I would just like experiment, and then there's always one person who is in charge of making content. In bigger companies, there's like an entire team that is in charge of making content. And I would challenge these big companies to say, do you really need a designer and a copywriter and a videographer to make an Instagram carousel or like something like that? I would challenge that, because it's just too expensive. And at the end of the day, we need to do is like, we need to try different things. It's about volume. Like, so if you are applying, let's say for a tech company, if you're applying this idea of like iteration and volume and exploration and testing to the product, why would not apply the same thing to the content. So I feel like that's what I would say to that. So I want to give you watching full control of whatever happens in these sessions, even if you're not subscribed. I prepared this form right here so you can select the topic of the next session. There's 4 options and there's a QR code which you can scan and just select the topic. Whatever you decide, it's gonna be the topic for the next session. If the next session is already out, you can click here to watch it, and why not subscribe? I mean, you're gonna get these videos delivered to your Explore page instead of coming to my page. And if you're not fully satisfied with the subscription, I'll give you your money back. Sounds like a good deal to me. I'll catch you in the next episode. Bye.